One of the enemy's quietest strategies is not to stop you from praying entirely, but instead to slowly kill your prayer life over the process of time until you are just saying words with no weight behind them. Most of the time, it is not because God has changed, but because certain habits have slowly choked the life out of your prayers. In this video, we are looking at 5 habits that quietly kill your prayer life, and what to do if you recognize any of them in yourself. The first habit that slowly kills your prayer life is trusting in the quantity of your prayers over the quality of them. A lot of believers fall into this trap without realizing. You start thinking prayer is mainly about how long you can pray, how many hours you can do at a stretch, while your heart is not right with God. God is more interested in the quality of your prayers than the length of your prayers. A person who prays for 10 minutes, but with a right heart, is much more effective in the spirit than one who prays for 1 hour with a wrong heart. Jesus himself warned about this. In Matthew chapter 6 verse 7 he said, "But when ye pray, use not vain repetitions as the heathen do, for they think that they shall be heard for their much speaking." He also exposed the religious leaders who made long prayers for a pretense, just so people would see them. The length looked holy, but the heart was empty. Isaiah chapter 29 verse 13 says, "This people draw near me with their mouth, and with their lips do honor me, but have removed their heart far from me." That is what quantity without depth looks like. The mouth is close, the heart is far. There is nothing wrong with long hours if they are real, but if you believe God hears you because of the timing on your clock instead of the posture of your heart, something is off. Prayer is not a performance. It is a genuine meeting with God. The second habit that kills your prayer life is neglecting the weight of discernment in the place of prayer. You can be very sincere in prayer and still be off if you are not discerning. Hebrews chapter 5 verse 14 says, "But strong meat belongeth to them that are of full age, even those who by reason of use have their senses exercised to discern both good and evil." That means, as you grow, your spiritual senses should be trained to recognize what is from God and what is not. For example, maybe deep down you know a relationship is not from God, but you keep begging Him to make it work, or you sense clearly that He is closing a certain door, but you keep fasting and crying for Him to reopen it. You heard His no, but you are trying to use prayer to negotiate around His will. When you pray without discernment, heaven waits while you argue, and the enemy laughs because you are wasting time on what God never promised. Discernment protects your prayer life from being wasted on what is not aligned with God's heart. Discernment is like a scale in your spirit. Without it, your prayers become scattered. You can spend months praying for something God has clearly said no to. The third habit that slowly kills your prayer life is feeding the flesh while trying to pray in the Spirit. You cannot spend all day feeding your flesh and then expect razor-sharp sensitivity at night. Galatians chapter 6 verse 8 says, "For he that soweth to his flesh shall of the flesh reap corruption, but he that soweth to the Spirit shall of the Spirit reap life everlasting." What you sow into your heart in the daytime shows up when you try to pray. If your daily diet is constant gossip, envy, pride, lust, and distraction, your spiritual hearing will feel dull. You will kneel down to pray, and your mind will run everywhere. The veil feels thick. God's voice seems like a faint whisper you cannot quite catch. Prayer is not a show. It is warfare. It is harvest. It is a refining fire. You cannot binge sin and then expect clear revelation. The movies you watch, the conversations you keep, the music you listen to, the accounts you follow online, all of those things are seeds. They either make your spirit sensitive or heavy. A simple way to picture it is this: what you feed in the day affects what you receive in the secret place. If your altar feels cold, check your diet. Sometimes it is not that God is silent. It is that the noise of the flesh is louder than His whisper. The fourth habit that kills your prayer life is allowing unresolved offense and bitterness to remain. Bitterness does not just hurt your emotions, it blocks your prayers. Jesus said in Matthew chapter 6 verse 15, "But if ye forgive not men their trespasses, neither will your Father forgive your trespasses." Unforgiveness is not a small side issue. It is a spiritual blockage. When your heart is full of resentment, replaying what people did to you, building silent cases against them, it is very hard to flow freely with God. You might still say the right words in prayer, but there is a hardness in you that makes it difficult to receive. Offense is like a knot tied around the cord between you and God. Every time you hold on to it, the knot gets tighter. Anger against others becomes an open door for delay, spiritual deadness, and even deception. You start praying from a wounded ego instead of a surrendered heart. The secret place doesn't open easily to pride and grudges. God is not asking you to pretend what they did was okay. He is asking you to release them so that you can be free. Forgiveness does not say, "It did not hurt." Forgiveness says, "I will no longer let this hurt rule my heart or my prayers." The fifth habit that kills your prayer life is praying without expectation and faith. Some people pray, but deep inside, they do not actually expect anything to change. They say the right phrases, but their heart is already bracing for disappointment. That kind of prayer is like sending a letter and never checking the mailbox. James chapter 1 verse 6 says, "But let him ask in faith, nothing wavering." Verse 7 adds, "For let not that man think that he shall receive anything of the Lord." That sounds strong, but it is clear. If you ask while doubting that God will act, you are weakening your own prayer. Faith is not shouting. Faith is trust. It is the quiet, steady conviction that God heard you and will respond in His way and His time. Expectation is the atmosphere where answers land. When you pray and then immediately cancel your own words, it's like planting a seed and then digging it up every few minutes to see if it is growing. You are not in control of how and when God answers, but you are responsible for the posture of your heart. Pray with expectation, speak His promises, thank Him in advance, look for His hand during the day. A prayer life without anticipation becomes empty routine. Prayer without faith is noise. Prayer with faith is a transaction. So what should you do if you recognize yourself in any of these habits? Start by shifting from calendar-driven prayer to heart-driven prayer. It is good to have set times, but do not worship the clock. Even if you only have 15 focused minutes, let them be real. Pour out your heart honestly. Listen as well as speak. Quality will feed your desire for more time later. Ask the Holy Spirit to sharpen your discernment. Spend time in the Word. When you sense God clearly saying no in an area, stop trying to twist His arm. Agree with Him. Learn to ask, "Lord, is this your will?" before you commit your emotions to something. Look at your daily diet and make some clean cuts. If certain shows, music, pages, or friendships keep pulling your mind into lust, jealousy, or distraction, be honest about it. Fasting is not just about food. Sometimes you need to fast from voices that block your sensitivity. Let your lifestyle match what you are praying for. Bring your offenses to God, one by one. Say out loud, "Lord, I choose to forgive this person. I release what they did into your hands." You may still feel pain at first, but keep forgiving until the grip weakens. As your heart softens, you will notice a freshness in your prayers. And before you pray, remind yourself who you're talking to. You're not talking into the air. You're talking to a living God who hears, who cares, and who moves. Ask in faith. Expect an answer. Watch for His hand, even in small ways. So there you have it. Thank you for watching. If you love our videos, please feel free to subscribe to our YouTube channel.